75. Hey, I'm
75.
Michael Dorinda,
And I'm Jake Bennett.
and welcome to episode 75 of the North Meets South web podcast.
North meets south, south meets north in the middle. Australia and US. It's a song for our listeners.
What listeners we've got left?
I don't know, man. How many people are people still listening to this? Do people still listen to us every week?
Who knows? No one ever
I
says that,
don't.
though. I don't think
I
they
don't
do. I
know.
think it's just really, we just use it as a sounding board for each other, to be honest.
I know. That's probably what it is. Speaking of, we don't really know what we're even talking about today. I have a couple things I think would be fun to talk about, but nothing particularly that is super, super interesting to me. But so, just save your time. Go ahead and shut it off right now. No, I'm just kidding. Hang around. We got some cool stuff.
Skip forward about 4 minutes and we'll probably have figured it out by then.
Yeah. Hey, so we could talk real quick about what's been going on with Then Ping Me. One of the things that's been going on is that Kanak has been working on a logo for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I actually got to talk to him today.
That was good.
Live. Yep, on the phone, on Telegram.
Nice.
And he was like, "Your voice sounds the same as it does on the podcast." I was like, "Yep, it's really me. It's it's really the same voice. I promise it's not like different."
The voice is the voice is the voice is the voice.
That's right. So that was kind of funny. But he's working on a logo for us. So we found out that the word ping is very close to the word pingo, I guess, which is like,
right?
Yeah, in Portuguese, which is like drop.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's got some stuff that he's doing with like a drop, like a drop of water. It's cool. He's got some interesting concepts he's working with.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, I'm excited to see kind of what's going to come with that. We are nearing the end. We've had 2 PRs that we've had out there. One for refactoring everything to use DTOs, which has been pretty cool. Actually, you can maybe talk about that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe for people who don't know, I think most people probably know what DTOs are, but for those who don't, we could talk a little bit about that, the package we're using and what it does for us. And then we had another branch called KISS. It was JB_KISS, which stands for Keep It Simple Stupid, because I was trying to make it quite complicated, and I was like, you know what? Forget that. Keep it simple. So we've got both of those branches now fully commented up, everything modified 100 times, and we are merging to staging. And then the last thing is polishing up that UI with that beautiful Tailwind UI and the new logo that we're going to have. So we're close. I keep telling Wilbur Powery, we're close. And he's like, yeah, okay. I'm like, no, for real. We're really actually, he's like, okay, sure. Well, all right, man. Hey, whatever.
I'm with Wilbur on this one.
Oh my gosh. So it's been cool though. I mean, like, we've got a lot of cool stuff. Honestly, man, like I don't know. So if I'm being controversial,
That's not like you.
It's not like me at all. I'm so like, I like to gibble and I like to like just kind of go along with the flow.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm very thankful for all the packages that we have.
Yeah.
We may have a few too many. We'll get back. we may pull back on the reins a little bit on this. Michael's shaking his head. Nope, not a chance. So we'll see. Here's the deal. Like, it's always better to have more data than less data. Like, I can get around that. But I don't know. That's the only thing that's like a little bit. We're getting there. We'll figure it all out.
Yeah.
It's sort of like we're just carving away the pieces until we get to its essence, and I think it's all going to work right now. That's the good thing, is like we've got the test. It's all going to work as it should, and nobody cares as long as it works. But there are a couple things, of course, that I'm just like, I wonder if. But it looks great.
We'll talk about those. Amazing. We'll talk about those about later. Let's talk about the DTOs.
Yeah, let's talk about the DTOs. So I'm gonna kind of intro this, and then I'm gonna let you kind of talk about why it was and how it is and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So DTO stands for Data Transport Object, and really what these are dumb objects that really only know about a set of properties. They don't have any behavior. They are just an object of like a bag of properties, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the reasons why these are useful is they can be type hinted. And then you know what properties you have available. Think about it this way. If you have a request that's coming into your application and at the front end you validate it and then you send it down the line, and from then on you're just sending it through as an array, how do you know which properties or which values are available on that array? Well, you have to trace it all the way back to where it was first coming from, and sometimes that's not apparent in the code, right?
Yeah.
The other option that you could have, right, is you could pass the specific typed form request as well. But that doesn't always necessarily give you everything either. It only would give you you'd only be able to look at tools and see what properties were actually validated and et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So DTOs are nice because you can kind of pass them down the line and now you have this dumb object, but you know the properties, which is really helpful, especially if you're dealing with a complex object or a complex request and you're transforming that into something that you're going to use other places. So Michael, talk to us a little bit. That's kind of the idea. So how are we using these? What package are we using? What does the package provide us? And et cetera. Carry on, my friend.
So when we started all of this, the whole idea with Then Ping Me is that we receive a payload from a downstream application. So your app at work or your side project or whatever, when it runs a scheduled task, it would send us a webhook, which would have a whole bunch of information in it. It would
a whole bunch of information, lots of it.
Yeah, it tells us things like where it's coming from, the IP address that it came from, how long it took to run, what time it ran out, all that kind of information. And we just get that. What time it's supposed to run next. Correct, yeah. So we get that from your application as a webhook, and it just gets posted as JSON. So we get this JSON object back to us. And that's pretty good. We use the Sparsy Laravel webhook client package to handle that. So it handles validating the signature of that webhook to make sure that it's valid, that the payload matches what it's supposed to be in there, that hasn't been modified in flight. It will make sure that we can process it, that it's a webhook of a known type and things like that. But once it passes that level of validation that it's a valid webhook, it just hits our application as an array. And as Jake was saying, you get that at the front of your application, but you don't know what's in it. If you can go and look at the payload, you could have a doc block somewhere that's covering it or whatever. And so we were doing a lot of handling of that payload in different parts of Then Ping Me in order to store that information, in order to determine if a ping was late, if a ping was missed, and all that kind of stuff. And it was hard to reason about what was actually inside that object. And then we're dealing with time zones, and the applications can come into different time zone from different time zones, but we're storing everything as UTC just to keep it all simple. And so there were a couple of places where we're doing the manipulation of the date to get it into UTC, and then figuring out what the time zone was and things like that. So this is where, once we had everything working, we pulled in another Sparsy package, the data transfer objects package. And this is not a Laravel specific package. This is just a plain old PHP package. And what it allows us to do is ingest an array from wherever, right? So in this case, it's the array that comes from the webhook that's already been validated as being a valid webhook. And then we use typed properties on the object to say that the memory is an optional value, but it is an integer. It will always come to us as an integer. And if it comes as anything else, then we consider it to be invalid, and we can't actually initialize that DTO. We can say, for example, with a time zone, this is at the very edge of our application. So we take the time that came from your ping, we immediately convert it to UTC, and we store a reference to what the time zone was on the original payload that came to us. So we know that we're always working with UTC, and we know that we can always figure out what time zone that came from the original ping. And as Jake said, you can type in this in different places in the application, and because we've got the type properties on the object itself, we know that these properties are always going to be in there. So you get that inference in your application that your IDE will pick it up and say, okay, well, you have this object and it has these properties on it, and that you don't have to think about it. You don't have to go look at the webhook. You don't have to go and look at the array. You don't have to go and look at documentation. We know based on that DTO what's in there. And it gives us some level of security and some validation that, hey, we've only got these things in here and that these things are always available. We know if they're nullable that we'll just get a null back, and we don't have to do any of the type checks, and we don't have to do, we don't have to check to see if it's in there and use the null coalesce operator to go, this property, question mark, null, because we know that if it's not there, it's just going to be null anyway, and we don't have to care about it because it's all managed at the very edge of the application. So we know that what we're getting with is always going to be in a consistent format. And so this has proved really useful because it means that we know what's there. We can pass it around. We can access things as though they're there because we are guaranteed that they're going to be there, because that's how these things get to the application. And then we just create a static constructor on there. So we say from client ping, and it returns a new object, and we just pass in everything from the payload and convert it into what we need in the application, and then it's all valid. So that simplified a lot of stuff for us in terms of passing this webhook around, and knowing exactly what was there and knowing that it was valid throughout the entirety of the request. The entire time that we're processing that.
Yeah.
And then all the way really down to the database, and then all the way back out, because once it gets to our database, we know that it's always in UTC, and we know, because we store the time zone that it came from, if we send you an alert that says, hey, this went down, we can send you even though we're storing it as UTC, we can send the alert to you in the application's time zone.
Yeah, it's so nice because it takes away all of the concern later on in the objects that are consuming it about like, oh, do we actually have this thing? Like it's a fail early sort of deal, right? Where it's like if it's going to fail, it's going to fail at the very edge of the application and return something to the user. Instead of like you're 5 layers deep and all of a sudden there's some unexpected value that you're not supposed to see there, right? So
correct.
Fail early and then return a response that's going to be helpful to the user instead of getting 5 layers deep and then 500 and no idea, right? Or something that they shouldn't really know about.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been pretty cool. I think it's been really cool for us. And also, I always thought it was data transport, and it's data transfer object. I've been saying that wrong for forever. People are like, he's an idiot. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's true. I don't. I just kind of muddle my way through it. The other thing we've been using a lot of is enums. And guess what else? Spot has a package for that. What? Now, I didn't, when we first started using the enums all over the place, and Wilbur Power is listening right now, and he knows we use enums everywhere, all over the freaking place. Don't we, Wilbur? Because he just messaged me and said, dude, you look super tired. Tough day. Yes, it was. It was a long day. Okay, quick break. Yes, it's a Saturday. And so typically on Saturdays, they're like totally like family days, right? We just all hang out as a family. We do whatever. But since we've been literally hanging out as a family every day of the week for the last 4 weeks, we don't feel so bad spending a Saturday doing not family stuff. Our kids at the end of the day today were like, we didn't have any family time today. It's like, yeah, daddy's only day off. Like we just got work done today. It was really great. So anyway, I mean, I missed my kids for sure, but you know what I'm saying? I guess what I'm saying is like, I didn't feel too guilty as a dad not spending, the entire day hanging out with the kids. So we got up, we cleaned out the entire garage. I mean, we literally took everything out of the garage, every storage unit, every shelving thing, everything out of the garage, cleaned the entire thing, reorganized the entire thing, went to the store, got totes and hooks and blah, blah, blah. So yes, that was exhausting. And then we took the table that I've been building and we stained it. And then near the very end, we realized that we hadn't mixed the stain very well. And started getting a different color on like the last board. Bro. Grim. So I had to sand that board down, and now we have to go back and get more stain tomorrow. I'm like, I'm done. So that was like all day today. So yes, I am exhausted. I am so dead. Oh, and then I had to edit another video tonight. It's a long story. Anyway, yes, tired. But as Wilbur Powery knows, yes, we use enums all over the place, and we really like them. But the way that I typically do is we just have a class that's dedicated to it, and we just use a constant, and then you just reference that all over the place. And I think we've talked about this before, but those enums are really helpful because the way that I like to use them too is like if I'm going to change something, not even necessarily if I'm going to change something, but if I want to know where it's used, I can just command click on that and then it shows me all the classes, like in PHP Storm. It shows me all the classes where it's being used. Because sometimes, like, I don't necessarily want to go change it. I just want to say, like, where am I actually using this, right? So sometimes I have, like, we even put our file system disks as enums. So the name of the disk is an enum. So if I'm like, where am I using this disk at? I command click, and then I can see all the classes that are actually consuming that disk. It's pretty cool. So we've been using that. So Spatie has a package for that, which has been cool as well. And you just pulled that in recently, right?
Yeah, they've got the Spatie enum package, and they have a Laravel specific one. And initially, I just used the enum package, and then I pulled in the Laravel one, and then as it turned out, I didn't need the Laravel one at all. So I just went back to using the plain old PHP one. And let me tell you, this package works with some black magic. So in order
it does.
to...
That's why I was so confused at first. Because for me, like, I'm used to it being such a simple little, like, okay, here's a constant in a class, no big deal. It's not that way with this package.
No. So this package gives, basically, you open up your PHP tag, you type your namespace in, and then you open a class level doc block. And inside this doc block, you use method, what are they called? Annotations. So at method, static, self, and then you have a method definition for each of the values of your enum. So for example, a execution in our application can be running, it can be finished, it can be skipped, or it can be timed out. So we have at method static self running. And then we have at method static bool is running int pipe string $value equals null. Then you have class execution status extends enum, open brace, close brace. And that is it. There is nothing.
It's just an empty class. There's nothing in there. It's an
empty class. And I'm like, what in the hell is this thing?
Exactly. I was something. I was like, did you forget to fill this in, or like what happened here? I was so confused.
Yeah. So the way that this package works is that it reflects the class. It looks at the class level doc block, and then it provides you some safety based on the doc blocks. So the only thing you have in here is documentation, and the package uses PHP's reflection libraries in order to make these methods exist, in order to validate that what you are passing into and out of the enum is valid. And it gives you the Boolean thing, so you can see if you're doing a comparison, you could say, dollar execution status arrow is running, and it will tell you, it will return a Boolean whether or not that status equates to is running. There is one class where we do some mapping, and you just pass a const in there called map underscore value, and then you can say we've got a method starting, and that maps to scheduled task starting. Because that's the name of that's how we actually store the status, is that scheduled task starting rather than just starting. So I think it's Brent at Spatie who built this package. I was talking to Freek about it the other day. I'm like, this is black magic. This should not
it
be.
Is.
But yeah, they want it to be very strict. Spatie is big proponents of typed code and making sure that everything's valid and all that kind of stuff. So using the reflection, they can actually look at everything that's in that doc block and make sure that there's only valid things being passed into it. It uses magic to declare. So I don't think it's magic, but to get the values out and get the keys out and get the indices out for the different values and things like that. So you can store, you can use the word starting in your code, but you can store it as an integer in the database. We're just storing the strings because it's easier. If you ever look at the database, you can see like this is starting, this is finished, whatever, rather than having to know. Typically you just use lookup tables. I had a discussion with one of my developers that for statuses, I don't really like using lookup tables because you've got a keyed index, a foreign index 1, 2, 3, 4 for the status, and then you've got another table that's got 4 records in it, and they never change.
Right.
If you've got started, finished, and they're your only 2 statuses, why are we creating a table? Like, it doesn't make sense to do that. If you need to search on those columns, index it, done. The MySQL is pretty good at indexing and then allowing you to look up strings like that, especially if they're one word statuses. They're not huge complex strings. You're not doing, string comparison. You're not doing the likes on them or anything like that. It's just a straight up, where status equals starting. MySQL.
Yeah, it's a one-to-one. It's a one-to-one relationship.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just yeah. You have to have a really darn good reason to have a one-to-one in our application. One, like, you better have a good reason for why it has to be there, like why it needs to be like that.
Yeah. So, that was a really cool thing, and that simplified a lot of stuff for us in terms of comparison. We're doing string comparisons where, model arrow status equals, enum colon starting and things like that. Whereas now we're using Laravel 7's casting, the custom cast, and we just cast the string straight into the object in our application. So we know that status is going to be an enum object. So we can just go, if status arrow is running, and it's done.
So cool. So it's so cool.
It's 100% black magic, but it just cleans up the code so much, and it it gives you some security and some confidence that, test aside, that when you call something on the enum, it's going to match for you. The is skipped will check is skipped without having to do string comparisons, without having to run around and look at things. If you ever need to change it, you can just remap it in your application. You just change the map value that skipped is now skipping or foobar or whatever, and everything will just work throughout the whole application without having to change anything. So it's an enum, as you had it initially, was just the const with strings and things in there. But then you've got to do, like, if you want to return the values,
the comparisons,
if you want to do the comparisons, you've got to do that by hand. If you want to return the values, all of the values that are valid, you've got to do that by hand as well. This just cleaned things up. It cleaned the enum classes up heaps, and it just made the comparisons and using the enums within the code wherever we needed to use it so much simpler.
Yeah, totally. So we've got those two things. We've got the enums and we've got the DTOs, which is great. We are using a couple other little things, but nothing really too crazy. The other thing that we're working through right now is kind of how executions, which are really pings are the very lowest layer, how those affect and kind of bubble up through the application. So as you can imagine, like, something that fails at the ping level affects the execution, which affects the task, which affects a project, which affects the user, right? And that's kind of how it rolls, right? So you kind of have the same idea that you have in JavaScript, which is like you have a event that happens and then it just kind of bubbles up until it's caught. And then you can, in JavaScript, you have this stop, what's it called? Is it stop propagation? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. Yep.
Stop propagation, right? And then you have, or you can just keep letting it bubble up, right? So that's the question that we're kind of running into, or the deal we're kind of running into is, like, do we just let it propagate all the way up to the top and let that one event kind of change the status of everything on its way up? So it changes the task to say, or the execution timed out, task failed, project warning, user alert them. How does that all happen? And then, like, how does it all get resolved, right? Those are the sort of things we're working through. We have it working right now, but that's the one thing that we had talked about that I'm like, there's just a little bit, like, that's the only thing that feels like there's a tiny bit of friction there. But it's working great right now. So
yeah, I think the thing we need to be, I suppose we talked about it, whether you wanted to have like a project level notification when the project changes to a warning status, as opposed to receiving an alert every time a task goes into a warning status, or do you want to get an alert when a ping comes in as an alert level status? So I think we're just going to make it configurable and let people choose. Like, do you want to get an alert when your project changes status? But I mean, ultimately, if a ping changes status, everything up the chain changes status. So do you want to get one alert for each failed ping, or do you want to get one alert? I would say you probably want for individual pings the alert, or for the individual tasks at least, because if one task fails and sets the project as a warning state, and then another task fails, I still want to know that second task failed. Just because the project is in a warning status doesn't mean I don't care about anything else that fails. Because, if it's one task that fails, fair enough. But if it's a cascading failure where like 2 or 3 tasks are failing because the database has gone away or something, then, you know, I think I'd still want to know at the task level that something has gone wrong.
Yeah, I agree. I do agree. I do agree with that. Okay, so here's the deal. I was talking to Kanak a little bit earlier today, and he actually redid our North Meets South logo for us not too long ago. And as a thank you, I would love to have him on the show to talk about it for a couple minutes. We've never really had him on, and so he's awake right now because he was like I said, we were talking about earlier today. I was like, hey, if you're awake, he's like, I've got a blue Yeti in the box that I still need to set up. And he's like, I've never had a chance to. Like, well, maybe you could set it up and try it tonight. So it's like 5 a.m. for him, I think, or something like that. So I'm asking if he wants to come on. We'll see if he has any time and if he can come on and if he can swing it.
Yeah.
But in any case, okay. A couple other things I wanted to talk about. Did you see that Taylor is doing a Laravel swag shop?
Swag store. I did.
That's pretty good. It's pretty cool. I think I have a sneaking feeling, not a sneaking suspicion, maybe that's the word, that Mr. Hemphill himself is also in on this thing here.
Yeah.
Yes, I do. Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I don't know if I should tell the secret though. It's not a secret. All I know is that I saw in the shop one of the items, or maybe 2 of the items, were labeled Bone Man.
Mm-hmm.
That is Mr. Hemphill's Rocket League gamer tag. Bone Man. Mr. Bone Man himself. And so, yeah, I'm pretty sure either Taylor's just hat tip David Hemphill, like, hey, you're the man, Mr. Bone Man, or they've secretly been working on this together, which is what I actually suspect. Because David has always been doing the clothing stuff, right? He does the whip hats. He's got, like, Laravel Elite shirts, right? He's kind of done that side thing just for fun. And so, yeah, I think that he probably was like, Taylor, you know what? You really should do this. And Taylor's like, great idea. Why don't you do it for me? And Dave was like, sure, I'll do that. You know what I mean? That's kind of how I envisioned it going down in my head.
Yeah.
I
got to do
but
the
in
black
any
on
case,
black. I need the black on black. This is the Laravel logo. Not the mark, just the word Laravel. Black on black cap.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. Oh, yeah, I did see that. That looks good. Also, we got the Ghost shirt recently from Happy Dev.
Happy Dev, yeah.
That looks, I ordered one too. It looks so cool. So cool. And I think it's awesome. They're donating all the proceeds to charity. We should put a link for that in the show notes. They only have like 20 shirts left. So by the time this is out, they're gone. Are they gone?
Yeah.
Good for them. That's awesome. And if you missed it, you missed it. Too late. Yeah. So sad. Too bad. You missed it.
That's right. And I think Adam and Steve were talking about a Tailwind store as well. So we should see some more swag. Like we need more reasons to give these people money.
Hey, man, you know what? Like, they need the money, I bet. Maybe they don't need it. That's not right. Maybe like Caleb Porzio, he's the guy, right? Like he just put on Twitter also that he rolled over the 70K mark for his sponsorships.
Well. Yeah.
Good for freaking him, dude. That's amazing. Like, because that guy's been working on this stuff, I've thought for so long, how is he going to survive if he just keeps doing this?
Yeah.
Like it feels like he's been living on like side work and a hustle for like the last 2 years.
Yeah.
Just killing it. And so I'm glad that it's like paying off.
Yeah.
Getting him some of this GitHub sponsorship love. I told him last week I'm going to sponsor him. I need to just put it in there. I haven't done it yet. I haven't used Livewire yet.
Doesn't matter. Neither have I.
Well, actually, I take it back. We used it in production. We used it in production last week. And I reached out to him and I said, hey, we have this one bug we're trying to figure out with this test. If you hit me up, there's a Git. And so by the time,
the best way to get him to help you fix a bug with Livewire is to have a GitHub sponsorship.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm
pretty sure because you're using it for work, you should definitely be paying the business tier, and you'll get that support from him. Don't ask him for freebies.
I'm not asking for freebies. I told him I'd sponsor him, and I'm going to.
You sponsor him, and then
ease off the gas pedal there, Dorinda. No, it was funny because
you sponsor first, and then he can help you.
No, it was funny because by the time he replied, we had already figured it out. And he said, well, I think that's still like, I still replied, that's probably like gold level sponsorship. You know, you should probably get on that. So it's funny. Anyway.
Yeah, it's good. I was talking to some people here on Slack yesterday about it. And, you know, people are saying that the GitHub sponsor thing is, you know, it's not going to work. And I said, well, it's the same as Patreon, right? It is, right? You can't just say, I'm going to do a GitHub sponsorship and then, you know, get bummed when no one sponsors you for anything, because you have to be providing value. And yeah, Dries, Jonathan Rennick, Nuno, these people have been providing, and obviously Caleb, who, you know, started this thing, they've been providing value to this community for so long, just churning things out, right? Just, you know, Caleb's been working on Livewire for ages. Jonathan's been providing invaluable database tips and tricks and things like that for you know, a couple of years. Nuno's been cranking out so much stuff with, you know, Pest is coming, and he did Laravel 0, and he's done all of those things. And Dries has been around in the community for ages, and, you know, he's working for Laravel now, but he managed Laravel IO for the longest time. These are people that have been providing huge benefits and huge value to the community at large for so long that, yeah, they're in a position where doing sponsorship makes sense. But if you're just someone who's just joined Twitter or you know, just started up the sponsorships, and you've provided no value, you haven't done anything, then yeah, probably isn't going to work out for you, because you don't have, you know, it's the same thing as always. You've got to build the audience. And how do you build the audience? It's by providing the value to the people.
Yeah, and he's been doing it for freaking ever.
And he's been doing it for so long, and he's got so much energy for it. And he's done, like, Livewire is an incredible piece of work. And then, you know, Alpine that came out, that was born on the back of Livewire, and that got picked up in so many places that, you know, it transcended our community, a lot like Tailwind transcended our community, that, you know, the Laravel niche. That got picked up by JavaScript people and front-end people and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah, if you're providing something of that caliber, then of course you're going to do better than someone who's provided nothing. Like, to suggest that it's not going to work for everyone is, obviously, it's not going to work for everyone, because not everyone is at the same level. So, good on him. As you know, as soon as he announced the sponsorship, what was it, back in February, March, whenever he first started doing the sponsorware thing, I was on it, because, yeah, I don't use that stuff, but people like that need to get some recognition for the work they're doing. And, you know, Taylor and Laravel sponsor the Livewire project and things like that, and they do a lot of work side by side. So, yeah, we're gonna, now that we've got these 2 PRs ready to go, and we're gonna deploy them, I'll do it later today, and we can see just how well this works. Then the next thing we're going to be start working on is the front end, and we're going to be using Livewire and some sprinkles of Alpine for that as well. So looking forward to that. And then,
okay, it's done. I just sponsored him. Just did it just now. So
let me check. Not that I'm calling you a liar. I gotta check.
He's a liar.
Here we go. 307. He's got 300 something here. 330 sponsors.
Should be 331 now.
Show more.
I wonder how long.
Show more. So many. This is going to take a while. I can't even see my beautiful face. This will take a while to see it all.
Oh, there it is. 331 now.
Private sponsor. You people.
I'm not a private sponsor.
No, not you.
I want that freaking credit, dog. No, I'm just kidding. Wilbur Powery told me the other day he just updated his sponsorship to $30 a month because he used Livewire for the first time in production. He was like, "This is freaking amazing. I never want to write JavaScript again." Yeah. So hey, I gotta get on that Livewire train, man. Dude. So we reviewed the code together though, and it's so nice. It feels so good. It's amazing. Okay, we're trying to get Kanak on here.
Look, as soon as we start turning some money out of Then Ping Me, hopefully we'll start turning some money out of Then Ping Me, we will get right on that as well. I don't even know what the tiers are. We'll get on the tiers though. Select a new tier. Oh yeah, we'll definitely move up to a higher tier as soon as we can.
Yeah, we'll see here. I'm trying
we're
to.
We're both individually contributing to the great work that you're doing, Caleb.
Yep. He doesn't listen to this show, so he won't hear. Sure.
Nobody really listens to this show.
It's true. It's sad but true.
I tweeted the other day about Alpine because I was working on this old project and it's just really, really poorly written. I inherited it from my last job and it was written by a developer who was maybe not... I don't know what he was doing. But I replaced literally hundreds and hundreds of lines of jQuery spaghetti with a few Alpine attributes or whatever you call them, divinations. Let's call them divinations.
Divinations, sure. Directives, divinations, same.
Directives,
same.
Directives. Just a handful of directives. And I think I got inside my own head because I was using like the blade components and I had nested blade components and I was trying to dynamically render attributes and I was overcomplicating it. And the same as you, like I asked Caleb for help, but I was already sponsoring him. And I asked him for help, and then again, same thing. He came back to me and he helped, but I'd figured it out eventually. It's just being a bonehead, me not knowing how to program. Classic.
When you're as popular as Caleb Porzio, it just takes time to get back to people. It's just how it is. Okay, Kanako said he is downloading Skype. He is getting ready. So on the actual edited version of this show, maybe this stuff that we're talking about right now will be cut out, and we'll just have him pop on through the magic of technology.
Through the magic of technology.
But he's gonna have to create an account. He's gonna have to, let's see, there's the add button. Add another person. And I don't know, can I? Nope. We'll have to see what his name is. Oh my. What else? Are you using Hello?
Hello, I am. It's actually sitting here directly behind my little eCam window. Marcel is a crazy man. He's like some kind of PHP, I don't know, what's a good word for it? He's just...
Divination?
I don't want to say... he's a PHP divinator.
Diviner.
Look,
Witch.
He's
warlock.
Doing crazy things like...
He's a PHP warlock.
And Tinkerwell and what's this crazy thing? Exposed that he's working on now, which is like an ngrok replacement that he managed to write.
I saw that. Yeah, that's interesting.
And I'm sure this is the kind of project that he started building just to see if he could, and now it's going to turn into another flippin' blockbuster application that everyone's going to want to use. So good on him.
Yeah, I use Tinkerwell. I use that semi-regularly.
I keep forgetting that I have Tinkerwell, mostly because a lot of my development is done in full-screen terminal, so I just go to a different pane and do whatever I need to do in Tinker. But
same. That's what I usually do too. But yeah, no, it is helpful sometimes. Like if I don't want to be like, if it doesn't matter what application I'm in, I just jump over to Tinkerwell. Typically, if it matters what application I'm in, I'm probably in that application already. Like I'm editing that code, right? And I just drop into a terminal, PA Tinker, I'm right there. Or if I need to write something complicated that's going to be multi-line, then I'll use Tinkerwell.
Yeah.
That's the other thing sometimes. Okay, we're going to make this thing happen, and then we are signing off because I am dead, and it is almost midnight, and I am dead.
D-E-D, dead. We're going to make him dead.
What's that from? Oh, I wanted to tell you one thing. I watched Greatest AFL Hits.
Nice.
Holy crap. Those dudes don't wear helmets.
No.
They don't wear pads.
Nope.
I did notice that all of the hits are either with their fist, like they either intentionally punch a dude in the face,
well, that's
or
not
elbow
allowed.
him, well, it's not allowed. It's not about being loud, right? Like, or they'll elbow him or whatever. But if it's like a legit, like they're running across the field hit, it's always the shoulder to the chin, right? It's always the shoulder, right? Because that's like the meatiest part.
Yeah, it's good.
Your body.
Good hip and shoulder. That's what you want. Bang.
Yep. Bam. Straight out like a freaking light. It's crazy.
Good night.
Yeah. Still don't understand the rules, but it is a crazy, crazy sport.
It is. Okay. It is the greatest sport. I'll give you that.
The greatest? Come on now. Door. 1 second. Okay, hold on. We're gonna bring him in. Here it is. He's on the call. You're calling him right now. Is he coming in?
Gotta figure out how this is gonna.
There he is!
There he is.
Oh gosh.
Hey, can you hear me? We can hear you. How's it going?
Oh, I'm still sleepy.
I bet. So what time is it there? Is it 5 a.m.?
It's 6 actually.
6 a.m.
So,
okay, and
tell me.
And you, I'm guessing, do you have kids or not?
Yeah, they are all asleep, and I'm on the garage. So...
Okay, I'm glad for you that your kids sleep in past 6. The other day, for the first time in a while, my kids got up at 5:55 a.m. and would not go back to sleep. And I about lost my mind. It was that was a rough day.
It's good to at least think about life and something, right?
Exactly.
So I'm awake. So bring it. What do you want to know? Let me just set up this. So go.
Yeah. So first of all, we wanted to say thank you so much for redoing our North Meets South logo. That was incredibly generous and amazing of you, and we love it, and we're super stoked with it. So I think I was a little bit curious about some of the other projects you've worked on. I know that you've done a lot of them in the community, and maybe just talk a little bit about like kind of what your motivation is and just why you find or basically you're doing a lot of these for free. So I'm just curious, like what is this just out of the kindness of your heart? Is it just something you really enjoy doing, or are you just that nice of a person, or what?
Pretty much, I just do it for the fun because I have an actual paying job that could keep me doing stuff like this. So I don't mind to as a hobby. So you, for example, you make tables and chairs out of wood, right? And during the launches, some hoops, some balls to the hoops. So for me, just making logos. That's pretty much how I get some fun out of it. And it actually started with Nuno Maduro.
Yeah.
No, now I'm saying his name as an English person. That is interesting. His actual name is Nuno Maduro. And so it all started with him. And then last year, out of the blue, I just got the idea of making free logos for anyone who wants it during the Hacktoberfest.
Yeah, that's right.
So instead of making just contributions of updating the README files, so I just made it a logo for their project. So I did 30 logos, I guess, around a logo a day.
That's insane. Yeah,
but it was super fun. I got to did one of the logos that I still remember was there's a project very similar to Postman, but open source that's called Postwoman. So nice. I needed to redo the logo and with the shape of the OVNI. So take a look on that. And then you guys ping me up. Sorry, the pun. You pinged me up for making the North Meets South logo, and that was a crazy project. I love it doing it, and the way that it appeared.
Yeah, it turned out awesome. It really did turn out so good. I love the cover art. I love the colors. It was amazing. It turned out really, really good.
Yeah, I don't know if you actually said to Michael about the prank or the funny business that I was intended to make it to the April Fool's Day, but
I don't think so.
I didn't manage to make it actual because long story short, I tried to make like a web page that will more or less behaves like a compass.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Only if you are pointing north, you can see the north meets south website.
Nice.
So, but I didn't manage to have a proper API to the web browser, so I didn't do it. But you can, if you find out a solution, let's do that.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, I think some of the other things. So the other thing that you're working on right now is the Then Ping Me logo. We've kind of talked about that a little bit. And you had some really clever ideas with that. So I don't really want to blow the top off that just yet. We're just kind of getting started with that. But there's the cool stuff I've been thinking about that we talked about today even. Even just the ideas of like incorporating it into something actually physical. So there's just some really cool ideas you had. And so we're really excited to be working with you again and stoked for all the stuff that you're doing in the community and wanted to have you on to say thanks. So I would love to talk about this stuff for another 45 minutes, but you probably didn't hear earlier on the show because you weren't up. But nope. I am like so dead right now. So tired. It was a day full of chores and full of work. And so I'm about to pass out in that bed right back there. And I'm just going to go to sleep and sleep until my kids wake up at 5:55 a.m. So we're gonna wrap the show pretty quick here. But again, just wanted to have you on to say thanks, and we can have you on again to talk about Then Ping Me stuff once we get that wrapped up.
Yeah, with a little bit more preparation.
Yeah, just absolutely.
But just a quick appearance.
Yeah, right. We can let you know in advance. Today it was like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. It was like, I think we are going to record at like 5 a.m. your time. You're like, I might be up, might not. So anyway, I'm glad you're able to make it on the show. So that's exciting. Thanks for coming on. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no worry. I need to explain later to my wife, but
she probably does. She's like, what is he doing in the garage at 5 a.m? Like,
she's used to my weirdness and everything. But okay, but this is a kind of another level. But okay, let's see.
Well, you can show her the podcast on Tuesday. Be like, see, this is where I was right here. This is what I was doing. I promise. I wasn't doing anything crazy. This is all I was doing on the podcast.
Yeah, just talking to an Australian guy and to American guy at 5 a.m. 6 a.m. actually.
Yeah, 6 a.m.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So thanks for having me. Sorry for the getting all stuff ready, and let's keep on working.
Awesome. Sounds good, man. I'm gonna wrap up. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna drop you from the call here, and we are gonna wrap up. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Take it easy.
Yeah.
Hey, everyone. As promised, we are wrapping. This was episode 75. Thanks so much for joining us. If you like the show, rate us up, share with your friends. If you want to talk to us on Twitter, Michael Doretta, Jacob Bennett. Show notes for this episode will be at northmeetssouth.audio. Is that right?
Yep.
/75. Okay, everybody, that's all. I'm going to bed. See ya.
Bye.
Bye.